Hello and well, holy shit. Welcome to Marlins After Dark, the playoff edition. The Marlins have made the playoffs. Vibes are high right now. See all kinds of content coming out in the coming days, celebrating the fact that the Fighting Fish, your Fighting Fish, have made the playoffs for the technically the fourth time in franchise history. If we count the 2020 season, which big school of thought on that for who does and who doesn't. We know Bruce Sherman counts it. He's currently the only owner in Marlins history who's been to the playoffs twice. It's probably going to get that on business cards before before the end of the week. But I'm joined tonight by Jeremiah Geiger of Marlins Nine, and this is a impromptu show just celebrating the joy and feeling of the moment. Jeremiah, welcome aboard. Where's your head at right now?
I feel well. First off, Sean, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's always great to talk Marlins baseball with you. And I'm ecstatic right now. Like, smile on my face. I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve night, just waiting for Christmas morning to open the presents, and that's exactly how I feel. Like, I I was talking a little bit with you before the podcast. Just I've never experienced anything like this. Like, I'm too young. I was a year old in 2003. 2020. Um, you know, it's tough to really compare. This is incredible, and to see our team, the laughing stock of Major League Baseball and the National League for years. This team was ridiculed and made fun of. No fans. Us Marlins fans are very far and few between. And now we're in the postseason. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, we're definitely a rare breed, right? I've kind of moved all over the country, and if I show up somewhere in my Marlin stuff, I've been asked by more than one bartender, or whatever the case be, like, well, why are you a Marlins fan? How'd you land on that? And I just
Right.
always have to give the boring answer, like, well, I grew up in Miami. Uh, remember when the team started? Been a fan for 30 years. It's like, oh, okay. It's like,
That
yeah,
checks out.
yeah, we really wanted this bizarre origin story for such a choice of the team, and it's like, nope, it just they were in town. I'd be a Royals fan if I was born in Kansas City, but thankfully I wasn't. After all, I mean, two World Series championships to the Marlins' credit, and this is I vividly can recall all now four, I guess, of these of these playoff runs. Been to well, I mean, no one went to a game in 2020. I was going to say I've been to games in all of them, but I've been to went to playoff games in '97 and '03. So those are very visceral memories. But this is definitely the most fun I've had of the season since I'd say probably 2004. I mean, I guess that was kind of the title defense year, and that was cool. But maybe even '03. I mean, I like those. I like those Hanley teams. That was exciting. But they didn't. But you always kind of it felt like something was missing. With those clubs, and that was a really good team in 2008, 2009 as well. Those were solid squads, and some of the last winners. 2009 was the last winning team, but
Mhm.
and I've just been struck by just the length of time that's passed. How much shit in my life has happened since the last time the Marlins made the playoffs, in a regular season. It's like I've graduated college, I've gotten married, I've had children, I've moved to 4 different states, I've worked many jobs. It's just
Right.
and this ridiculous checklist. I've seen how many NBA finals have I seen the Heat play in? Six,
Yeah, a
I
lot.
think. Since then, so
Including
other
one this
other
past
sports
year.
franchises, yep, are accomplishing stuff, but it's just great to see the Marlins back on the stage in this miraculously blessed year of 2023 for South Florida sports. The Marlins are starting their chapter, and it's just awesome to see. So you mentioned so 2020 is your only other playoff experience. Are you going to a game? Are you getting on a plane for Philadelphia tomorrow? How far
Yeah.
do they have
So
to advance to get you? Are you going to go to South Florida if they make it to the division series?
so that's the thing, right? And first off, like, you were mentioning all your life experiences, kind of with this team, and how since 2003 so much has gone on in your life, like an infinite amount of things. And for me, being a fan, like when the Marlins made the playoffs and I'm sitting there and I'm just contemplating that and kind of, going over it in my mind, and I'm thinking, as a kid, like just random memories are popping up of random games and, pain of random defeats and opening day of being able to watch opening day baseball. I remember my mom would always let me watch opening day, um, you know, and just all these things, and it builds up into it really is a dream come true. And I said before, when the Marlins made the playoffs, I was going to go see them. And being, because I am in the military, and how it works and being able to leave, and take leave. Unfortunately, the Marlins didn't clinch until like the last week of the season. Otherwise, I could have been able to pencil in the wild card series as, hey, okay, I'm going to be able to go to this.
So you're
But
not just going well on the.
yeah, probably not. I'm probably gonna have to watch the wild card series on TV, and then NLDS, NLCS. I don't know, man. Like I'm thinking, like if somehow, some way, Miami can get out of Philadelphia, and you know Atlanta's just a few hours away from me, and maybe make a NLDS game, or who knows, NLCS. That would be amazing. But right now, like I'm content to just watch it on TV. 8:08 Eastern time is all I can think about right now. I'm so amped up, man.
Oh, and I was so excited when it was a night series, and I was
Oh
joking
yeah.
and joking just in case. By I guess the greater than zero chance my employer is watching. Like just definitely a joke that I would have canceled my class so I could see the afternoon playoff game. Because I remember in 2020 that was the case, and
But hypothetically
I wasn't able to
speaking,
navigate that, and so had to kind of be like in a blackout, like they had a project then, and just wasn't able to
right.
to make that work. Would have been a tough decision if it was just say one of those like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Start times you get with the first round of the playoffs. But no, 8 o'clock I can be home. I can do my work for the day and come home and enjoy the series. So I'm psyched for that. Being out here in Texas, it could certainly be a tall order for me to, I guess, keep my streak going of being present for part of the series that fans are at least allowed to attend. I guess I'm really hoping for that World Series run, and that it's against the Astros or the Rangers, because then I think that I can definitely sell
That would be awesome.
that I can
That would
sell the
be awesome.
Wi-Fi if I get to stay in the same state. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little trickier to pull off getting to a game. But and LCS, maybe.
Yeah, like honestly, I'm thinking like if the Fish make the NLCS, it's at the point where you're so close to the World Series, you can taste it. I don't care where it is. I gotta find a way to go.
Oh, you do. No, it's definitely it's baseball. I think is the best. Might be the best thing to watch live.
Yeah.
Of all
Oh,
the sports.
100%.
Yeah, and across the
100%.
board. That's true of a regular season game in May. Baseball is the best sport to watch live, and the
Yeah.
atmosphere. But it's definitely true of of playoff baseball. You have some great memories there. I was there for some of the big games. I mean, that's probably a part of my colors my opinion slightly. I was there for the play at the plate in 2003. Was there for Game 7 in
Nice.
'97. But and one NLCS game where the Marlins got the crap kicked out of them in '97. Really colored my opinion negatively of Al Leiter for about a year there as a kid. Not really appreciating how good he was, because I was at two of his weaker performances in the '97 playoffs. But yeah, go whatever. If you can make it work, you should definitely get out there. Uh, when did you believe this was going to happen? Like this season, like really believe. Don't tell me you thought this team had a feeling in May. We all kind of thought it, but like when did you believe they were actually going to make the playoffs?
Man, so I'm looking at the schedule and we go back to May. We go back to just looking back early June. There was a little bit of a run where we swept the A's, the Royals, and we started beating up on the bad teams that we usually lost to. And that was when Yuri had started to settle into the rotation, and Miami had proved that they were contending. We go into the All-Star break, and I was feeling good. I was feeling really good pre-All-Star break. I'm like, why not us? This team can make a run. And then post All-Star break, man, the shit hit the fan. Like, it got bad, really bad. And it really pissed me off, though, because on Marlins Twitter, and a lot of people started complaining and criticizing Kim Ng, criticizing Skip, and those people know who they are because the receipts are there. But it's I don't know what it is, but with Marlins fans, whenever something goes wrong, they catastrophize it, and it was bad, but they were still in it. I don't think they ever got past maybe 4 games back of a wild card. So those of you who keep whining and bitching at Kim Ng, now you're in the playoffs, so I don't really want to hear it. The month of September, though, when we swept the Braves, oh my God, man. That was when I was like, this team is going to make the playoffs or they're going to die trying. There was no more excuses. There was no more, we can play against everybody else except the Braves. They literally beat them 9-6, 11-5, and 16-2. That's what Atlanta does to us. That's what Atlanta does to other teams. And Atlanta was still playing hard. They weren't throwing their scrubs in. They still, Olsen was hitting, Acuna, Riley, their mashers were in the lineup. We just outbraved the Braves. That series is when I was like, there's a chance. This is going to come down to the effing wire right here. And the Mets series, that was weird. That was so weird. I'm sure we're going to get into that with the field later. But I think
next.
Yeah, I think after
gotta
that
touch on
Atlanta
that.
series, that was when I said, all right, there's a shot. Here we go.
That definitely helped restore a lot of faith for me. I was down there for 2 of the games. I had kind of committed.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
And I'd kind of committed to that back in, I think, late April, early May, just kind of throwing. And that was, or well, they've got a winning record. They're doing well. They're on a bit of a run. Wouldn't that just be awesome? I thought, if they're so into them, those Braves and Mets games are going to be consequential. So yes, this is back when we thought the Mets wouldn't suck.
Yeah.
And so, way back in the, they'd be in it there at the end, battling, and kind of had that in my head, it's going to be a wild card race between the Mets and the Marlins, and probably the Mets are going to take that down, but committed to being there. And then the season played out as it did, for 14 games over 500. You're thinking, well, maybe they got this locked down, and then that rough sledding there in the second half, wheels started coming off, but being there for that packed house, feeding off the crowd, watching the Marlins smack the Braves around. So I agree with you. I thought they were going to fight till the end, but still, if I had to be honest, I'd say the moment that I knew they were going to make the playoffs or believed it was when the Cubs lost Friday night. It wasn't even after the Marlins won on Friday night. It was when that magic number got dropped to 1 with 2 games to play plus whatever Monday was going to be that makeup inning. Then that's okay, we got this. But still expected, very talented Cubs and Diamondback rosters, and still thought they'd edge it out. But the Braves series is when I knew I'd be happy with the season, and had it play out, and as proud of and impassioned and feeling positive about the team as I had felt in, probably 15, 15, 20 years. But getting in, that was when the Cubs lost.
and I'll touch on that for a second. Is that in the month of September, it was a little frustrating because we were trying to chase the Cubs. The Giants were ahead of us at one point, and then they just ran out of gas. The Reds ran out of gas. And they started tailing off mid-September. It really was obvious they weren't going to make it. The Cubs and the Diamondbacks played 7 games. And I remember just being like, who do I root for here? Like, literally both of these teams I need to lose.
It changed every day.
Yeah, it really did. And then I remember not last week, but the week before, like going into last week, where we looked and it was Cubs, Diamondbacks, Marlins, everybody separated by a game. And it looked at the schedule. We all looked at the schedule, and I saw Marlins have Mets and Pirates away, but still subpar teams. And who did the Cubs have? The Atlanta Braves and the Milwaukee Brewers. And I knew right then, I said, we have a really good chance, because I had no faith in the Cubs beating the Braves. And sure enough, they got swept. So it took, like, I hate Atlanta, but thank you, Atlanta. Like, you know.
Oh, sign still delivered from the Braves on this series. Couldn't believe when like the sweep happened, no less. Figured Atlanta would already be resting guys by then, but they're that good, which is just awesome, by the way, that the 5 seed has to play Atlanta in the next round. But hopefully we'll get to that, and problem that is. But yeah, because since you kind of touched on it, before moving on to looking at this playoff series, I think it'd be remiss if we didn't touch on the only thing suckier than the Mets themselves, 2023, which would be their field, and the City Field has been forever weak in my book. What were just some of your reactions for what had to have been some of the most just like bizarre set of circumstances I can recall a team encountering?
I mean, it was bizarre, like you said it. Like the first game, the rain, the postponement of the first game, and you literally have 6 more games left of your season. You're postponing the first game. It's like, okay, now we're gonna do a doubleheader. Well, like, this screws everything up. This screws the Marlins too. Like, doubleheaders are fine if you're, May 17th or something, not September 27th when you're 1 game out of a postseason spot and your pitching depth is gone. Like, we have no more arms. You can't do this. Like, the fact is the Mets have one of the largest payrolls in baseball, in sports. They have, a state-of-the-art owner, and spends all the money or whatnot. There's absolutely no excuse as to why that field can't be ready. You can't screw up that bad. You just can't do it. That doesn't happen to any other stadium. And I understand, like, I don't think there was bad intentions, and I appreciate Steve Cohen apologizing publicly on Twitter to us and to the organization, but that could have been really bad. It could have been really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking at the time that it's kind of funny then what became the Monday game that was scheduled. Like I wanted one of those games just to be pushed to Monday right then. Like okay, fine, we'll play a game on Monday. Let's just let's not screw up the rotation.
That makes sense.
Just make sure we can use our good pitchers as much as possible, because these games are going to matter. I just didn't want to see Brax moved up till Wednesday and then unable to pitch in the final game. And there's a thunderstorm going on, so y'all get to see my dog during this. But but just the state of that field, it's just criminally ridiculous. And then of course that funneled into Thursday and just built down. It just seemed like all these external factors just coalescing in that week to screw with the Marlins right when they were on the cusp. The Mets stadium, Arias stepping out of baseball, Arias tripping down the steps when the lights were turned off. I just can't recall with any of my any team that I follow, Marlins or other, of just that many like completely outside of the talent on the field scenarios throwing off the game. We also had some horrible officiating in that too, right? Some really bad ball strike calls, and one of those games, Berger was
with Jake Berger,
was ejected too. Is just this like comedy of errors there for the whole week. But yeah, I can't recall anything like that with the field conditions being that terrible for a whole series.
And I wouldn't expect it to happen to any other team either than our own Miami Marlins. Like if something this batshit crazy would happen, it would happen to us. So at least
just some Marlins.
Yeah, it just is Marlins through and through, but it worked out.
Yep, made it. Yeah, so how do you like them apples, Steve? And just in case there was some skullduggery there. Right, well, moving into this playoff series, and this is a good day. I mean, if you're watching this, good time for the Marlins to be playing a playoff game. If you're watching this on October 2nd, one of those few years that I can tell you that on this day in Marlins history, the 2020 Marlins beat the Cubs, won their wild card series and punched their ticket to the division round. If you're watching or listening to this on October 3rd, which I think is much more likely, I can tell you that in 2003, Pudge Rodriguez had 4 RBIs to knock out help win Game 3 against the San Francisco Giants. Marlins won 4-3 that day, and in 1997, on this same day, the Marlins also beat the Giants. And Devon White had 4 RBIs, hit a grand slam as part of a 6-2 defeat of the Giants. So good day. It's a good day for the Marlins to be playing playoff baseball historically.
I'm gonna always leave it to Sean to come up with these daily trivia. I always look up every day when I check Twitter and I see on this day from Sean Miller, I'm like, that's pretty cool. And every once in a while I'll remember one of them.
Yeah, try to get those out there as much as I can. Sometimes I forget what I put out today. If John Birdie is in the starting lineup, and this I just kind of like because I'm, as you've just demonstrated, a nerd with this kind of stuff. He'll be the second player in Marlins history to be part of an opening day lineup for the playoffs for 2 separate years, which kind of makes sense with this only being their 4th playoff series. But Jeff Conine's the other. Jeff Conine was part of the first lineup in the first round in 97 and 03, and Birdie started the first game in 2020, and he'll be able to join that small club if he's in the lineup tomorrow night. But one question I have for you going into this, before we just get into predictions, and certainly most of this just needs to be spent still soaking up the joy of this moment. We'll have plenty of time to talk off season and next season. Once the season ends, after a championship, of course. But
that's the goal.
Just wondering what are some storylines, and I have some, so we kind of go back and forth. But what are some things that you're looking out for in this series that would kind of, be able to have an impact on 2024, on the upcoming offseason? What are some things here? It's like, obviously the most important thing is what they do on the field to win these games, but just what are some things that you're going to look at and just kind of file away going into the off season for how it might affect what the team does with roster decisions and whatnot?
Yes. So for me, the first one and the biggest one right off the bat is the Marlins are in the playoffs, and they made the playoffs without Sandy Alcantara and Yuri Perez on the wild card series roster. And the 2 guys, the number 1 game 1 starter is Jesus Luzardo, and game 2 is Braxton Garrett. And this is a story for both of these guys who were overlooked, forgotten about, discarded, and they never gave up on themselves. Jesus Luzardo was a former top 10 prospect in all of baseball and could not figure it out in Oakland. Just couldn't do it. He was, thrown, practically given to the Marlins in the Starling Marte trade for half a year of Starling Marte. The A's said, we're done with you. We don't think you're going to figure it out. And, he starts working with Mel, and we see the ERA was still over 6. But he had all this stuff. And I said before this season, I said, look out for Luzardo. Jesus is going to have a breakout season. And what did he do? Just had a breakout season. It was incredible. And then Braxton Garrett, this one is even like more impressive because Garrett, first round pick, and back before Kim Ng, this is back in 2016, I think. 2016 draft is when Garrett, maybe 2015, one of those two, gets Tommy John surgery, and nothing was showing that he was going to be a productive major league starter. He was a back end bullpen spot start guy. And Braxton Garrett was the most consistent starter for the Miami Marlins in 2023. Without these two guys, the Marlins aren't in the playoffs. They're not, and it's a testament to them, and it's a testament to this team that they're in the postseason without their Cy Young winning ace and one of the best generational talents that I've seen watching baseball. Both of those guys aren't pitching. It's Luzardo and Garrett, the two forgotten pitchers that came back.
Oh yes, and especially on Garrett. I mean, I've been kind of calling him the team's MVP for the whole second half.
Yeah.
And he's been their best pitcher, in terms of WAR. Unless Luzardo, they were kind of neck and neck. Luzardo might have passed him with his last start. I'd have to check, but the fact that it's that close at all, that Luzardo's been that Garrett's been able to put that kind of effort together is just remarkable. For me, one of the first big storylines that I'm watching is kind of with an eye towards the offseason is what did Josh Bell and Jorge Soler do in this series, and hopefully series, as this goes on, because the story on like what's going to happen to them, it's kind of been debated. It's gone back and forth all season, and I think there's no debate that Soler is going to opt out of that he's had the kind of season that's going to allow him to earn a bigger contract. It's a really thin free agent market. He's easily a top 5 bat on the market. I think you maybe even argue top 3. It's just that thin in terms of hitters. And it's Ohtani at the top. You go down a bit, and then you got Bellinger, and after that, I think you could say it's Soler. And one big thing with his track record is he's just a different animal entirely in the postseason. He's almost a 300 hitter in nearly 80 plate appearances across the postseason, 6 home runs, got an on-base percentage well over 400 in those games, slugging well over 600. And just everyone, any baseball fan still remembers that moonshot he hit to pretty much ice the World Series for the Braves and 2021. And earlier in the season, like the comments seemed to suggest that he was going to opt out and stay out of Miami. He wasn't that happy with the field conditions at Lone Depot. But as the season went on, as the Marlins clicked and gelled and had this run that they had, that I feel like the narrative's kind of changed. He does seem to, be happy here. Respond, to his teammates, and so I think there's, I think there's a chance. But if he has a really strong, postseason, maybe that could be a thing where maybe that puts him out of Miami's price range. And I'm just going to be curious to see how that plays out. Certainly a good problem for the Marlins to have.
Yeah, no, for sure.
This whole season, was really the best case scenario is him to keep having these proven years, essentially. And he's done that, and the Marlins have reaped all the benefits without having to commit future, millions upon millions, to him long term. But he's such a big part of this lineup that if he's not on the team in 2024, then that's one big hole they have to fill. And it kind of goes the same way with Josh Bell. Bell has, I think, anytime he's been asked, has praised the virtues. Now he's speaking in the open about how much he loves being here and loves the ballpark and seems really committed to being a part, of the Marlins going forward. But he also has an opt-out. And when the trade was made, I think we thought that he was, a lock to opt in. He was having a bit of a down year, but just brought him here because he was hoping that he could be maybe a little better than Garrett Cooper had been, to that point. Maybe bring some, bring a little postseason experience, perhaps, or just veteran presence, more so than Coop. And then he had such a hot start, like almost setting the record for first number of home runs in a short span of time as a newly minted Marlin. That it's like, oh, he's opting out for sure. And then that kind of changed again. So I think he's kind of at a coin toss at this point. On the one side, he's a Boris client. On the other, this really wasn't the strongest of his. It was just a good year. He's been immensely valuable to us, but overall, start to finish, April to September, not a superstar season. But if he goes on a heater here and the postseason play, goes on, knocks a few home runs in there, that's going to be the cherry on top. And maybe then he does opt out. So I'm just really curious to see what their performance does, and then how that impacts roster decisions. I think both players probably kind of want to be back, but it's just it'll be about money, and we'll see what that leads to their future. So that's one thing I'm watching for. What about you? What's another thing you're going to be curious to see?
I think during this series is kind of Luis Arias and his impact. Like, is he fully healthy? I don't think he's fully healthy, but he's going to play. I don't think anything would ever keep him out of this series. But I just want to see, his approach and his return to the lineup, because the Marlins need him to win this series. He's their best hitter. I think he's the best pure hitter in baseball. So it was a really freak injury, stepping on the dugout steps, or just twisted his ankle a weird way and kind of tweaked it. And, when you're that technical of a hitter, every ligament, every joint is important in your swing. So, rookie of the year to himself. Yeah. So, just him being back, the Marlins are going to need him. We've seen Arias hit so consistently all year long. Let's keep it up, because we all have also seen him go through a little bit of a cold stretch where we can see him take a series off and he goes 1 for 11. Can't happen. We got to go 8 for 13, so we'll see, but that's what we want.
Get another cycle out of them.
Yeah, I'll take that too.
Yeah, they can do that. We only got to do it twice. That'd be nice. And just since you mentioned, it was hats off to Arias, of course, the first player ever to win the batting title in a different league in consecutive years. That last part is the unique part. A couple other players have done it. DJ LeMahieu, did it recently, but they winning it in 2 separate leagues, but not back to back. Arias is a different animal. By far at the plate. Another one for me is I want to see what Jazz does. I want to see what Jazz does in the big spotlight. Carries himself like one of the top 5 superstars in the game, but it's been in terms of WAR, he hasn't been one of the Marlins' 5 best players in 2023. Honestly, I mean he's a spark plug for the team. He's a great presence, a great leader. He's so much freaking fun to watch on the field. Not knocking, and what he's done in center field has been amazing. We all thought that would be just a kind of a sideshow act. I think, but he's just taken it, seized the job, made it his own. Recently I think just identified himself as a center fielder. Now he's really past all expectations for locking that down. But is he a superstar hitter? Is he one of the elite offensive players in the game? And I think that's still debatable there. And I just kind of want to see in this spotlight, with the national media attention, all the cameras on him. I mean, fans know him from commercials and video games and stuff. But this is a chance, one of the first chances, really, for just the country's eyes to be on him. Every play, every at bat, for a series. And I want to see if he channels his inner Hemi Butler and just steps up and just go finds another gear for the playoffs. That's kind of what I'm expecting him to do, honestly. But that's kind of because that's what he's built himself as. That's what
that's his persona.
It is, and it's a part of his toolbox. It's one of his best weapons. A couple of years ago, he said, I have a secret power that it's called I don't care. Like, that's
Yeah,
it's fun to watch, but he needs to do it, and if he doesn't do it, and be would seem like a bit of an overreaction, to like what could be 2 games, with their banana if they. And it would be an overreaction if he goes 8 for 8 over over the course of the 2 games and they still lose, but they seem unlikely. But
Mhm.
still, it's small sample size. But I just want to see what he does in the playoffs. If he raises his game for the big moment, and if he does, then I think you feel good to keep rolling with him as the 1A alpha offensive force on the team. The team can mainly focus on filling out holes. Maybe we're talking extension this offseason. And I think that would be like a certainty if it is a big postseason,
I agree.
showing.
I
If
agree.
it's not, then if the Marlins still have plenty of time, really, to play with him before he's in danger of becoming too expensive. And if it's a lackluster showing, I think that gives them one more year to work with on on what to do, Jazz.
And what I'll say real quick is, you know, we're in the postseason, and this isn't a marathon anymore. It's a sprint, and we've seen this team be able to put up runs. And I know I was on the MLB.com MLB app and looking at the rankings of the postseason team, and of course, to no surprise, the Marlins are in last. 12 out of 12. Talking Baseball, their podcast, with John Boy Media. Every single person is picking the Phillies. They're the bottom feeders. It's the bottom feeder mentality. But that's okay because it just takes 2 wins in Philadelphia. The Marlins can do that. I have faith they can do it, And then in the NLDS, it's best out of 5. Can you get 3 out of 5 in Atlanta? Can somehow you get 3 out of 5? Who is going to step up? You mentioned Jazz. Jazz is built for this. And I'm going to believe in him until he proves otherwise. And I think he's going to prove to Major League Baseball the reason he's, on the cover of the show. And he's going to step up in a huge way. And the veterans is the other key piece, the other key ingredient. Guys that are on the tail end of their career, the Yuli Gurriel, even guys like Joey Wendell, who have really not contributed much, but have been in the postseason, who knows what it's like, this environment. Let's go out and get some hits. Let's play above what we've done all year. Let's turn back the clock a little bit and let's all start hitting and contributing, because like I said, it just takes 2 games. You need 2 wins in Philly, and now it's on, can we get 3 in Atlanta? One day at a time. Let's do this.
I like it. And then I guess a third for me is going to be going to that game 3. Marlins are going to make it. Marlins are going to make it to game 3 of this series. They're going to make MLB sweat their projections a little bit. Going into it, and I want to see what Everett Cabrera does. And this is again, if mine, like I said, I'm kind of doing this through that kind of bit of 2024, lens, and I think that regardless of what the Marlins do here, if they get swept, if they win this series, lose in the next round, if they win the World Series, where you could agree that there's some holes to fill in this roster, going forward, and how many depends on how contracts play out with players like Bell and Soler, what's going on with what's going on with Sandy, down the line, but at least at least catcher and shortstop errors you're going to want to look at, and just there's enough holes on the offense that I think they're probably going to need to do one more trade. One more trade, akin to the Luis Arias trade, despite all the lessons the Marlins learned this season about never being able to have enough pitching and all the body blows pitching depth took it someplace. It's just, it's just the reality of their financial position.
Yeah.
It's not knocking them for it. They've squeezed every bit of talent and then some out of this roster. They've made the moves they needed to make. GM of the year, manager of the year, awards need to be handed down to them. But they're not the Yankees. They're not the Dodgers. There's a cap on what they can do, and I think they're going to need to make a trade to get it. So, Luzardo, he's obviously here for the long haul. Sandy's here for the long haul. Yuri's here for the long haul. You've got Max Meyer coming up, who's got plenty of control left. Dax Fulton, Trevor Rogers, or be back and in play to be in this mix. But it's Cabrera and Brax. To bring it back to what you mentioned at the top, that are going to be, I think, the names to watch. Garrett's made himself such a secret weapon for this club, and I think he's going to be a secret weapon that the Marlins choose to keep. He's just so cheap. He's so good.
Yeah.
I think he's under control. It might be 2029 or something ridiculous, that. Where Cabrera is, has, I think scouts will tell you that he is more, potential, more talent, more exciting stuff at least. But he's also out of options, and he's freakishly inconsistent. He could, strike 5 guys out, then walk 5 guys. I think I heard someone saying the other day, and that's you don't know which one you're going to get. It's a coin toss. It's the biggest roller coaster ride on the Marlins roster is which Cabrera will appear from day to day. But he's had a really strong September, since he came back up. With one little bump, the other day, he still looked, like he's worked on a lot of things. And if he could keep that going into the postseason, if he can have a strong showing there, then I think that burnishes him up as a potential trade chip. I think he would be the most likely pitcher to go if he has a strong showing. And then it's just thinking of it in terms of 2024 into what can the Marlins potentially turn Cabrera and some other down the prospect chain pieces into. Does that become your next starting shortstop? Does that become your next starting catcher? Perhaps. And if it's not Cabrera, then it might need to be someone else. Maybe then it's Garrett, then it's Trevor. But I want to see all the other pitchers that we know are guaranteed locks to be part of their long-term plans. Shine shine in this national spotlight. And I'm curious to see which of them does so, and hopefully it'll be both. But that's the last thing I'm looking for that I think could have a big impact on what we see the team do over the next few months.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Eddie, like you said, consistent. I saw a game of his where he went 8 innings, just dominated. I think it was 8 innings of shutout ball last year against the A's, and then this year he gets optioned. So, like you said, it's put up or shut up for him, and it's put up or shut up for everybody on the team right now. It's do or die. It's win or go home. There's no we'll see how he feels next week. Like, no, you need to bring your A game right now and prove it right now. And I think we're going to learn a lot about the character of certain individuals on this team, like Edward Cabrera, who's kind of in that, where's my future with this roster? Like you said, like, well, here's an opportunity to prove yourself. And real quick, just a hypothetical, this is just, me throwing this out there, if I don't think did the wild card rosters come out? I've been looking, but I didn't see the official roster yet.
I don't believe so. I think that's
okay. Because if Ryan Weathers is on the wild card roster, he might be somebody you can consider a game 3 bullpen long relief kind of spot start appearance.
That would surprise me just because of how much he pitched on Sunday.
That's the only thing.
If you're on the wild card roster, then you've really got to kind of think of it as like this needs to be a player that you could use Tuesday,
right.
With the exception of the tapped starter for Wednesday, I suppose. And they can change out the rotation every series. I think that Weathers would have a great chance of being on the NLDS roster.
I think he should.
Some more games to play with, but I think it would just be. I think it's just going to be Luzardo, Brax, and then bullpen with players that would be. The
Yeah, that makes sense. Just throwing it out there because I was like, wow, like 6 innings, no runs. Like, I don't know.
Well, that was good. For me, that was the cherry on the top of Kim Ng's GM of the Year campaign. So just on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
piece that we were all bemoaning, and justifiably based on what he did on the field in his other two Marlins appearances. But this was a little flash of why he was such a highly regarded prospect at one time,
Yeah.
and why. Yeah, I don't think he's in the same tier as Luzardo. I've kind of heard that, kind of comp made, but I think with the same amount of time to work with Mel Stoudemire and the rest of the Marlins coaches, they could. I'm confident that you'll see the best version of whatever Ryan Weathers can be, in 2024
With Mel.
with the Marlins. I just don't think that the best version of that is going to be one of the. I'd be surprised if the best version of that was one of the Marlins' 6 best starting pitchers.
Right.
Yeah, next season, but I think he could be a very useful piece with a full season of a
Can
full
never have
off
too
season.
much pitching.
Can never have too much, and he'll definitely be a useful piece to hold on to, especially if they do, like I suspect, have to deal from the deck one more time on to get a little offensive help. But I'm trying to. Well, I can certainly ask you your predictions on there. I'm considering holding off on mine. I'm going to be making an appearance on some other shows tomorrow. I might want to keep them revealed as close to game time as possible. But how do you think this series is going to go?
Yeah, so in my earlier pod, I didn't really give a prediction. I just kind of ranted, and it's more a passionate episode.
Celebrated. So
celebration.
We're just happy we're here.
Yeah, but I'm not satisfied with just making the postseason. I don't. It's awesome. It's a dream come true, but I want more. You get a taste of it, and you start thinking, NLDS, NLCS, like World Series, like. But it starts in Philadelphia, and I really like the pitching matchups for both teams. Honestly, I think Luzardo and Wheeler is going to be a battle, and then I think Brax and Nola is going to be a battle. For me, I think if I had to predict, I'm going to go with the Marlins 2 out of 3. And they're going to take the rubber game. I think they win tomorrow, and Brax pitches really well. But the Phillies, it's in Philadelphia. I think they get a game. So the Miami takes game 1, Philly takes game 2, and then the rubber game, which might end up being a bullpen game, we're gonna see some really wacky, crazy ending that only Marlins fans will experience because it's the Miami Marlins and we're weird like that. And we win a classic game 3.
Well, I'll be, like I said, I'm gonna shelve my prediction somewhat, but I think we're going to get that 2023 Marlins experience. I think they will import that too, but I think that's going to happen in either game 1 or game 2. I mean, with the way a lot of the games I think we've had with Luzardo and Brax, sometimes you never know when that Marlins moment is going to occur. Does that mean that Luzardo is going to go 6-7 innings and strike out 10 tomorrow, but then whoever gets the next inning after him is going to stumble and give up a lead, and then Marlins lose that game, but then the Marlins go offense crazy in the 8th, despite the fact that Brax on day 2 gives up 4 runs and it becomes a bullpen game, but then we just eke away and then take the lead, or does it get flipped around? I think one of them will shove and one of them will falter a little bit. Philly is a really formidable opponent. They went all the way to the series last year. They've all been there. It's a very experienced, very
They're loaded.
Very, very powerful roster. But but rather than reveal my prediction, I just want to give some stats on why you should believe this could happen. The Marlins, they won the season series against the Phillies. I can tell you that Marlins were 17-9 in the month of September. They're, I think, 18-10 when it was all said and done down the stretch. The Marlins have won a series against every team that they're going to could possibly face in the National League playoffs in September. So recently, they've won those series pretty much all of those series without Sandy.
Yeah.
Even as part of it, which is seen as the biggest handicap right now. Some of those series they've won without Soler. Some of those series they've won without, they've won with very little help from Luis Arias, and those hitters are back in the lineup for this. If you want to go all time historically, I can tell you that while the Marlins have definitely had, they've only made the playoffs 4 times. It's been kind of a rough road, the whole Marlins franchise experience. The losing it based on winning percentage, the losingest team in Major League Baseball is the Miami Marlins, unfortunately. But when you get to the postseason, they're the best team in baseball. All-time Marlins have a 632 winning percentage in the postseason. If you throw out 2020, they've never lost a playoff series. If you count 2020, then they've never failed to advance in the playoffs. They did lose their second series there, but they did sweep the Cubs. They kicked those playoffs out. They always have risen to the challenge in the playoffs. It's been my experience with them. They always kind of find that extra gear, and all these runs have had in common is really been fueled by them getting hot down the stretch, hot at the end of the season to capture that wild card. In all those cases, again, never won a division. It's Braves could knock themselves out winning the National League East. The Marlins they do it all the time. Marlins have never won the division, but still 2 titles to show for it. So I think it'll go 3 games, and I'll tell everyone tomorrow what I think is going to happen in that third game. But Marlins will win one of the first 2, and it'll definitely be a competitive series.
And you mentioned, Sean, every team that the Marlins are going to potentially play in the National League, they beat in September. We know that. What do you think those other teams are thinking? Those other teams don't want to face Miami. Miami was flying under the radar all year, fell off in August, came back with a vengeance in September. This team is ready to go. Look out.
Hey, as Skip said, they're not fucking done.
Yeah, baby, let's go.
So let's get after it tomorrow night in Philadelphia. I'm Sean. Thanks to you for coming on, Jeremiah. And this is Marlins After Dark. Go Fish.
Go Fish.